All right. Hello, everyone, and now welcome to a 1v1 matchup between Yumiko and Sheik. This game taking place here on Scrimmage. On the top right-hand side of the map, we have Yumiko spawning as the red human, trying to scroll out, and then, well, it's constantly scrolls back in, not quite sure why. Meanwhile, Sheik spawning as the blue undead over here on the bottom left-hand side of the map. I believe this is the first time I've cast a game on here, so let's go ahead and look at the creep camps. There are some green creep camps, some orange creep camps right here, 5311, 532, that might actually give level 2, not 100% sure. Easy green creep camp nearby. Same thing pretty much happening off to the north. There are a relatively large number of gold mines on the map here. 4 additional gold mines available to try and establish, so economy could become a bit of a factor in this game. For those of you guys out there who don't follow WarCraft 3 or Blizzard all that much, they recently announced, upcoming BlizzCon, the future BlizzCon 2026 happening later next year, and that there is going to be some, esports events. It feels much more non-standard. It's not going to be, hey, there's a StarCraft 2 event, a StarCraft Brood War event, WarCraft 3 event. It's going to be almost team play, and we're waiting on what the rules are going to look like there and what's going to happen. I'm assuming that they're just going to be trying to, hey, grab players like, hey, you have a team of a certain number of people. So Team A is going to have one person for StarCraft 2, one person for WarCraft 3, one person for whatever the game is going to be, StarCraft Brood War, and, we'll figure out which team is better. How that is all going to be officially done, that is difficult to say. Are we going to see a Rod of Necromancy, 4 units around that ghoul right there, sleep, and beautifully done. That Acolyte is not going to be taken down easily. Even if you auto-attack him, you can see that regeneration is going to be quite good, and that Footman easily taken out early. So Sheik, able to use sleep, able to take down that early. Meanwhile, it is going to be Dark Ranger first with Siphon Mana. This Dark Ranger first Siphon Mana, there's always been a question of like, hey, what would it look like if you had a hero early in the game that could actually heal himself? Well, no such hero exists, but there is a hero out there that can heal herself in that Dark Ranger. So the Dark Ranger, is tanking damage, dishing out damage, and having a lot of fun doing it. So Dark Ranger, picking up a Potion of Greater Mana, picking up a Tome of Intelligence right there. That is an agility-based hero, oddly enough. So it has decent armor to tank as well. These are all things that perhaps players had not really considered or thought about. And, also on top of that is immune to enemy death coils. All right, going to go ahead and go after that rogue here. We're going to see the Dreadlord get to level 2. Dark Ranger also going to benefit from being on Blight. So that's going to be a little bit of a weird spot here as the skeletal minions do a quick run by and see that the Dark Ranger is here. Skeletal minions are popping up here by Yumiko. And this is all a deliberate strategy. Oh, this is interesting here. So getting in a quick attack with a black arrow and then following it up with Siphon Life in order to regenerate hit points and then churn out some of these lesser dark minions. Militia now making their way over. This could be a potential problem here. One peasant going to get taken down. Another one going to get taken down. Carrion Swarm ripping through the crowds as those skeletal warriors are back out here as well. Another peasant going to get taken down. We need to see some damage perhaps go down onto some of those ghouls. Arcane Tower going to come online, and there goes one skeletal minion already. There's another Carrion Swarm, and now that Dreadlord going to lose a lot of that precious mana. Siphon Life keeping that peasant alive temporarily. Is it going to be able to stay alive? No, but it is buying a whole bunch of time, and we're going to be seeing another peasant about to get taken down here. All right, another ghoul taken down there. Another peasant gets taken down. We are still getting in some repairs. Black arrows, letting those arrows fly. Another Siphon Life onto that ghoul. Down to 79 hit points, being forced to back away. So Dreadlord first Dreadlord versus Dark Ranger here on Scrimmage, and what an early battle it has been. Sheik already having the expansion operational. Meanwhile, same thing for Yumiko. Both sides have some towers, so those are going to be difficult to break, at least in the early stages of the game, as we do see level 2 black arrows now coming in from Yumiko. So Yumiko perhaps going to get in a black arrow shot onto another target there. You're going to see bigger, stronger minions now. So those bigger, stronger minions going to be dealing quite a bit of damage. Goblin Shredder also here onto the battlefield. You're going to see Scourge Bone Chimes, and now a little bit of a fight going back the other way. All right, Goblin Shredder does not regenerate hit points from that Scourge Bone Chimes. It is a mechanical unit. Meanwhile, skeletal minions of Yumiko actually just as strong, if not, or just as, no, stronger than the skeletal warriors of Sheik. So Dark Minion versus skeletal warriors, a little bit of a difference there as well, as we're going to be seeing what the Goblin Shredder is. Goblin Shredder going to get in some shots, get in some damage. There goes another as well. We're going to see some more damage fly down to, well, 46 hit points. Dark Arrow, is it going to be enough to finish it off? One more final attack. Dark Ranger, well, nope, not going to be able to do that there. Gets a regeneration instead on that Dreadlord with a Ritual Dagger. All right, Yumiko does have a Potion of Greater Mana. Could do quite a bit here. Going to go after this giant sea turtle. We're going to see some poison spread across all of these targets here, as the Dark Ranger now down to, well, very low on mana overall. We're going to see another one pop up again. So these Dark Minions are popping up, as the Dark Ranger going to get an additional attack damage from that Tome of Agility. Goblin Shredder. Well, this is an interesting call here. Because of the Goblin Shredder, the Goblin Shredder can actually deal fairly good damage against these the ghouls, as the blacksmith is currently paused here. All right, we're going to see some damage. Another ghoul going to try to do a quick run by. He's just going to get cleaned out pretty quickly, as the Dark Ranger sits at level 4. Skeletal minions, Goblin Shredder cleaning up the remainder of this location pretty easily here, as we see a tech to tier 2 at the expansion. All right, so this is one of those situations. You want to be able to call to arms at your expansion. And remember, there was a patch, well, years ago, to try and balance things out, where the Expo, the human Expo, does not have the ability to call to arms until it gets to tier 2. That was one of the situations, like, hey, are we actually going to see tech to tier 2 at the expansion? And that's exactly what we see here. Dreadlord comes across, does some big damage with some carrion swarms, able to take down 3 of those towers, and now peasants are going to be in trouble again working here. No arcane tower to work. Goblin Shredder now getting repaired. More militia coming over. Level 4 on the Dreadlord of Sheik. So big damage across the board here. Are we perhaps going to get some more repairs, trying to finish off some of these targets? We're going to see another ghoul try to get away. The Goblin Shredder not needing to fight back here. The militia perhaps needing to get in some repairs. And the Dreadlord may be able to finish off this Goblin Shredder here. That's going to be some big damage indeed. All right, Dark Ranger coming back around saying, you know what? If you're going to shut down my expansion, I can do the same thing to you. Goblin Sappers. Goblin Sappers. Is it going to find its target? There, takes down one. And now, well, a little bit of splash damage onto the other Nerubian tower as well. That is going to be big damage once more, as the Dark Ranger tries to finish off this Nerubian tower. However, multiple acolytes coming off of the gold mine line to try and finish things off here. Dark Ranger once more, well, needing to wake up the footman, apparently not realizing that that is already woken up again, and another sleep as well. Dark Ranger could have some big problems here. Going to try and engage back against all of these targets, and footmen are perhaps going to get taken down. There's a Siphon Life, and that ghoul down to, well, 35 hit points, able to survive again barely. Dark Ranger, remember, does, well, regenerate hit points while on Blight. Dreadlord, Siphon Life, getting a little bit more hit points there. So Siphon Life to give that footman a little bit of an additional chance on life here, as we're looking at a little bit more damage again. Dark Ranger, Staff of Teleportation, going to try and get away. Are we going to see a sleep? No, we are not. Black Arrows pushing back once more. Keep is done upgrading. Scout Tower upgrading here, as a low hit point ghoul, well, not going to make it out easily at all. Blacksmith still needs to be upgraded. We're looking at arcane towers, guard towers here. Goblin Shredder off to the north. Lumber could be a problem. There goes a carry-on swarm. Gargoyle now going after the Goblin Zeppelin here as we see some Siphon Life units trying to retreat back. 36 supply compared to 36. And in all of my decades of watching and casting Warcraft 3, this is perhaps one of the strangest games I've seen. All right, Footman with Siphon Life, level 5 now on the Dark Ranger, so Yumiko is going to have access to perhaps get to Charm very, very easily. What is this going to be as a follow-up? Perhaps a Blood Mage with Siphon Mana. Dual Siphon with Charm could really spell problems for Sheik. Are we going to see a second hero? I do not see a second hero as of yet. Level 5 now compared to 5.1, and we are upgrading to tier 3. Meanwhile, we are only at Halls of the Dead by Sheik here as the, well, units are still trying to make their way through. Another ghoul going to get taken out, and those are greater dark minions, 16 to 19 damage. That is very high indeed. Compare it to the 12 to 13 damage Footman, and you see actually the difference, almost like those dark minions, or those greater dark minions are similar to grunts more than anything else. All right, units trying to try and retreat back here. Low hit point ghoul, carry-on swarm ripping through. However, those greater dark minions, if they do get knocked down by carry-on swarm, do feed a good amount of experience. Goblin Alchemist as the second hero. So Goblin Alchemist, another hero that you do not want to allow your opponent to get to level 6. That is going to be a problem there. Transmute and Charm could both be on the table, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. Level 5, level 1 as the Dark Ranger now also has to deal with a Death Knight. All right, well, the Dark Ranger's Rune Bracers could be given to the Goblin Alchemist. That could be very helpful indeed. More healing underway. Dark Ranger just trying to finish off all of the units. A nasty carry-on swarm while chipping away at the hit points again. A little bit more healing spray. We're looking at some, well, more damage being done off here as the Goblin Alchemist finally gets taken down at level 1. Meanwhile, Dark Ranger still doing a little bit of fighting here, perhaps going to try and take down these acolytes. There's a little bit of Siphon Life. There's Black Arrow, so a shot of Black Arrow followed by Siphon Life, and the duration on that attack perhaps large or long enough to, well, to allow that nasty 1-2 combination as we're looking at more damage coming back across here. There's another carry-on swarm. Ghoul trying to back away. Footman going to get taken down as the Dark Minion still trying to chase again. All right, no mining here at the Expo. Mining underway at the expansion. Mining here as the tech to tier 3 is nearly done, and Yumiko does have a couple of towers. Dark Ranger at 5.5, trying to finish off another Acolyte. Does get it taken out. I don't believe a new Dark Minion popped out anywhere here, as the Dreadlord looks to perhaps try and finish off more of these units again. Remember, though, that the greater Dark Minion does regenerate health while on Blight, and it does it fairly well, as we see, well, this Ghoul a little bit far away from the action. All right, this is actually a little bit of a funny spot here. The Dark Ranger has no one to wake her up, as the Ghoul now tries to head back here. All right, little bit of damage. Dark Ranger just falling all the way back here. Going to get some damage onto the, well, no, Dreadlord, no. Little bit of mining still needed underway. There's a little bit of Siphon Life. Acolyte trying to break that connection. It's going to break it. No, it is not. And a new greater Dark Minion does pop out again there. More damage still to be had. Dark Ranger down to 278 hit points. Going to go ahead and Siphon Life off of that Dreadlord. Able to survive ever so barely. And, well, tank a little bit more of that damage again and again. Greater Dark Minion trying to chase after the Acolyte here. Meanwhile, more Black Arrows. We're going to see another Ghoul trying to back away once more, as the Dark Ranger going to go ahead and teleport away at 140. No, another sleep there, disrupting that Dark Ranger. And now the Dark Ranger perhaps going to try and just walk back out. No, it says Siphon Life. I can drain more life than damage you can deal, and just continue this process over and over again. Goblin Alchemist back out onto the battlefield. We have an army of flying machines. Are we going to get bombarded yet? We are at 58 over 58 supply. There were gargoyles in the air, and I don't see much of an army by Sheik. 43 supply compared to 58. Death Knight is sitting at level 2. That is a lot of gargoyles in the air. There's going to be a, well, that ritual dagger to try and heal them up. Meanwhile, the flying machines, if they don't have a way to attack ground, can't really do anything once all of those gargoyles are out of the air there. All right. That is a fair amount of supply that is doing absolutely nothing. Well, nope, take it back. Now finding a gargoyle or two out in open space. Dreadlord, however, carry-on swarm could spell problems as we are now teching to tier 3, and there is a blood mage as the third and final hero. Dual siphon by Yumiko, siphon life and siphon mana. There's that siphon life right now. The Dark Ranger draining much of the mana off of, or much of the hit points off of that Null Overseer. Has to be careful trying to give it back to a footman in order to stay alive. The Dark Ranger, remember, also is stealing some of the experience away from the level 1 Alchemist and the level 1 Blood Mage, preventing them perhaps from leveling up. All right, Skeletal Minion, both of them getting taken down pretty fast. Dark Ranger, a little bit past 5.5 now. Flying Machines, wow, you see that carry-on swarm, how much damage it dished out to them. They do not want to fight a battle there. There's another carry-on swarm, and that is a lot. That's what, 200 hit points times the 6 that it hits, so 1,200 damage across all of those units. All right, carry-on swarm finds a squadron of flying machines, nearly takes them out. Dark minions, and talk about a go-wide army. Mass dark minions and flying machines. Flying machines trying to go after the gargoyles, and this is just an absolute spectacle as the Dreadlord does have a potion of mana. Is he going to try and perhaps shoot down all of these flying machines here? There's a siphon mana from the Dreadlord. Dreadlord losing a lot of mana. This could be a problem. Staff of Sanctuary saving the Blood Mage as the Goblin Alchemist unable to do enough there. All right, potion of mana used here. Gargoyle flying machines could turn back around, perhaps try and shoot down those gargoyles here as they're trying to give chase again. There's that siphon, or there's a heal there. Drain life, and that Dreadlord down to 400 hit points, trying to stay alive. Healing spray as well, trying to beat up on that Dreadlord. Dreadlord somehow still able to stay alive as the Death Knight gets up to level 3 and now has level 2 Death Coil. All right, Goblin Alchemist gonna have a little bit of trouble trying to get back out of here. Dark Ranger, sleep. There's a sleep. Scroll of Town Portal unable to be transferred, and Sheik gets to level 6 first. Dark Ranger asleep on the job, unable to transfer over that Scroll of Town Portal, and with that, well, problems arise. Are we gonna see a siphon mana? No, we are not. Death Knight still doing a little bit of chasing off to the north here. We're looking at the Dreadlord does not have enough for a carry-on swarm. Flying machines trying to catch up here, but the Death Knight with Unholy Aura offering a little bit of a speed boost, or a big speed boost at that, as the Dreadlord finds enough mana to make a difference. All right, Gargoyles, wow, they engaged and then took quite a bit of damage. We do see Bombard now finally from Yumiko's flying machines as they're trying to give chase again. Dreadlord does have a potion of mana. We're going to see, oh wow, that Obsidian Statue is going to take quite a bit of damage, able to retreat back here. A little bit more damage again. Blood Mage needs to find a way to stay alive. There's a Staff of Sanctuary, and the Dark Ranger once again asleep at the wheel as we see a Necropolis off to the side here, perhaps doing a little bit of bombarding as more flying machines get shot down. That carry-on swarm, bug impact on the propellers of those flying machines, taking them out of the skies as the Dark Ranger nearing level 6. We're looking at a Knight about to get taken down there. There's the Death Coil. It finishes it off. We need to see more Staff of Sanctuaries if we are going to see any usefulness from those Knights. 6-3-1 going up against a 5-1-1. Dark Ranger, well, looking to find a way to do something as we see an Orb of Slow now on the Dark Ranger. All right, so Orb of Slow on the Dark Ranger could proc slow, obviously. There's going to be a little bit of damage. Poking through there. Still no slowing as of yet. Flying machines trying to bombard. Carry-on swarm. Oh, that's going to be a bunch of dead flying machines there. 57 supply now compared to 50 as the Dreadlord is continuing to fire and being able to shoot back up onto the targets. Siphon mana from that Dreadlord. Dreadlord no longer able to siphon here. Dark Ranger has to be careful. Blood Mage doesn't want to be lost. Are we going to see a siphon mana? No. Scroll of Town Portal transfer instead. Flying machine shooting back the other side. Carry-on swarm taking down more again, but a gargoyle was lost in the exchange as well. Yumiko is mining off of an additional base right now, as the main bases have about 3 minutes of mining, 3 minutes or more of mining left. All right, 6 minutes versus 3. Expansion here, that's pretty low. And, well, this guy is pretty low as well. 6.5 minutes, 7 minutes, all of that getting underway. Now, Lich is still sitting at level 1. Death Knight still sitting at level 3. Units wandering around once more. Dark Ranger just needs a little bit more experience to get to level 6. Are we seeing a Goblin Alchemist getting resurrected? No, not yet. Oh, Goblin Alchemist hanging out here, getting God Staff of Sanctuary, and now trying to heal back up once more. All right, Dark Ranger, Siphon Mana, Knights. Well, here we are going to go and engage. Dreadlord fighting back the other way. Siphon Life not going to be enough to take down these Acolytes. They're going to be able to regenerate nicely as both sides are fighting their way through. Dark Ranger needs to wake up the Blood Mage. Gargoyles have just been doing enough. There's another Siphon Life as the Blood Mage could be in trouble. All right, Dark Ranger, Staff of Sanctuary for the save. There is another Siphon Life there. Siege Engine does not have the ability to shoot up yet. Yeah, no ability to shoot up, no rockets to try and challenge those gargoyles. All right, so the gargoyles, however, piercing damage on against the fortified armor. That's going to be a little bit difficult overall as the Siege Engine takes the battle off to the top left, just trying to roll out and finish things off here. All right, Dark Ranger making its way through. Are we going to see another Siphon Life? Perhaps some damage on here. Goblin Shredder making its way down. We are going to see one Acolyte about to get taken down. There goes one. More could be brought over. Siege Engine's going to try to shut this down here as Flying Machine's looking to back away. Dreadlord with Carrion Swarm able to shoo those units back pretty easily. Additional healing underway here. Dark Ranger needs a little bit more experience to get to level 6. Is he going to get it off of this? Well, not going to get it off of the Ziggurat, the Spirit Tower, as we now see level 6 finally underway here. All right. No rockets, and the gargoyles are just absolutely owning the skies here. We do see possession. I'm not quite sure what was possessed here. No obsidian statue possession as Yumiko going after those spirit towers. Siphon Mana going and then shutting down the Dreadlord. Dreadlord could be in trouble. Dreadlord trying to retreat back here. 6-2-1 going up against a 6-4-2 as the gold mine here in the southern spot has been cleaned up. Dark Ranger nearly back on mana again. The Blood Mage perhaps should be giving some mana over. We're going to see another Obsidian statue get taken down. Blood Mage now gets up to level 2. There's Siphon Mana, and now the Blood Mage could be in trouble. He gets Staff of Sanctuary back out. Still more stunning getting underway here. Charm is now nearly done. Charm is going to go ahead and charm up a Gargoyle instead. A red Gargoyle here. As the, well, Ziggurat's trying to get resummoned. Sheik is just going to have to cancel this, but the Goblin Alchemist does fall at level 2 here. All right, Siege Engines now going after the Black Citadel. There are enough Gargoyles and a Frostworm here to try and shut this down on all of these Siege Engines. The Siege Engines are upgraded 3-1, and the Black Citadel, is it holding steady down to 300? No, it is slowly falling, but I believe now that one of the Siege Engines are gone, this is going to be able to hold on barely. All right, Infernal finishing off another Siege Engine. Level 3 now reached by the Lich. Gargoyle trying to retreat back here. We are looking at 2 bases compared to 2 bases now. But this base nearly mined out. So it is going to, no, excuse me, 2 bases versus 1. Sheik still trying to reset up this southern side after that haunted gold mine was taken down. All right, Blood Mage is here. There's some Siphon Life. Blood Mage, Frost Nova, not even a chance to really stick around in this battle. Dark Ranger perhaps going to try and charm something. Could easily charm up another target here. Death Knight could be in trouble. Death Knight, is it going to actually get surrounded? This is going to be a big, big problem indeed. Death Knight getting surrounded here. Swirl of Town Portal is going to get transferred. No, Invul Potion, Carry-On Swarm. That is a 7-second invulnerability. There's some Devour Magic, and the Death Knight able to get away. Beautiful play by Sheik in order to stay alive here. Siege Engine is still bursting their way through. 48 supply compared to 62 as more units are rolling back out again. All right. Gargoyles finishing things off to the north here. A couple of Murloc creep camps trying to join in on the fight. Some crazy battles all across the place here as the Blood Mage now waiting to get resurrected. Healing spray, healing back up that Dark Ranger. 73 supply, nearly 1,000 gold in the bank. Things seem to be in favor of Yumiko, but then again, Sheik does have the hero level advantage. Level 7, nearly level 5, and also level 3. Oh, rockets now online. You can see that piercing damage. That's going to be able to rip through those gargoyles fairly fast. And now that the siege engines can actually challenge here, that's going to be a bit of a problem. Staff of Sanctuary saves, and now the siege engine, however, going to be lost as the Blood Mage has the second Staff of Sanctuary, not the Goblin Alchemist. Blood Mage about to make its way back out onto the battlefield. Are we going to see a Staff of Sanctuary? No, the cooldown is simply far too much. Goblin Alchemist wants to buy a Staff of Sanctuary. There's a sleep there, and there goes another, another siege engine. Dark Ranger trapped between, well, a tough spot right now, needing to get back out. We're going to see perhaps a Staff of Sanctuary onto that Dark Ranger. We do. The Infernal called down but misses the Dark Ranger as she's teleported out, as Knights now run out onto the battlefield to try and shut down the haunting of that gold mine for Sheik. All right, a little bit more damage again. Goblin Alchemist, Blood Mage retreating all the way back. Scroll of Staff of Teleportation trying to retreat back here. We're going to see another Ziggurat about to get finished off here. Siege engines rolling, and we are looking at the southern supply with 3,000 gold left. Meanwhile, Sheik, well, unsummoning this gold mine as it's run out of gold as well. Sheik is up against the wall here. Needs to find a way to, well, make these hero level advantages and really start to pay for themselves. 7-5-4 going up against a 6-2-2. When your third hero has more experience than your opponent's second hero by 2 levels, things are generally in your favor. But, well, you could not tell that by how this game is currently going. Siege engines ready to roll down. Black Citadel going to suffer more damage again. That is going to be some cold attacks here. This siege engine able to attack pretty quickly as the Blood Mage falls at level 2 again. Staff of Sanctuary was on the Blood Mage, but didn't get sanctuaried out. Meanwhile, well, do we see anything? Well, a Knight right here. All right, we are mining 1 base compared to 0 bases right now. This siege engine trying to shoot down these gargoyles, working a little bit too slowly. Also, the obsidian statue also providing quite a bit of heals. Could be a problem. All right, Goblin Shredder taking quite a bit of damage. Needs to get repaired. Yumiko has to be careful. He doesn't want to lose a 4 supply unit to creeps, especially at this point and stage in the game. Yumiko perhaps not paying attention there as there's so many other things to keep track of right now. Gargoyles finishing off another target. Lich sitting at level 4. This one particular necropolis may end up getting taken down as well. Meanwhile, the Goblin Shredder was taken down by creeps. Goblin Alchemist looks like he's going to be able to get to level 2 here in just a moment. No, Goblin Shredder able to stay alive. Purge going down. Yumiko will be able to get to level 3 finally on his Goblin Alchemist, his second hero, close to the 29-minute mark of this game. All right. Siege engines still wandering around here. Perhaps they're going to be able to take down the necropolis. Perhaps take down some of these gargoyles as well as a carrion swarm rips through again. Units trying to retreat back. Dark Ranger sitting at level 6 siege engine. Well, trying to roll out again as the siege engines making their way through. All right. That is all taken out once more. Fly machines scouting out that gold mine. Yumiko knows that he has the economic advantage, doesn't need to engage unless it is in his favor. As another siege engine trying to roll away. Death Knight sitting at level 5. Lich sitting at level 4. Rune Bracers on that Dark Ranger makes her, well, very difficult to take out as the Death Knight now going after the Dark Wizard creep camp off to the north here. Dark Wizard gonna easily get taken down. Lich Gonna gain some big experience perhaps. No, doesn't gain that much. The Death Knight taking a lot of that experience as we see a Helm of Valor for that Death Knight. Plus 10 in stats overall. Plus 5 strength, plus 5 agility as the Necropolis about to fall again here. Staff of Sanctuary for the save. Dark Ranger continuing to put in pressure. And this is just turning into a base, a battle of attrition. Only a handful of buildings left for Sheik, even though Sheik has the higher level heroes. Well, things are still going fairly well for Yumiko. Staff of Sanctuary sends that one Goblin Shredder back home again. 73 supply compared to 42. Upside down on supply for Sheik as a handful of units now taken down there as well. What really can Sheik do to get back into this game? Hero levels need to make a big impact. Carry on Swarm, perhaps taking down the Dark Ranger. That would be a big boost indeed. Meanwhile, the Goblin Alchemist and the Blood Mage still only sitting at level 3, level 2. As the Dark Wizard here getting its life slowly drained to death. Acid Bomb, Frost Armor, a little bit of damage, Healing Wave as well, trying to keep all of these units all nicely topped off. As we see War Song Battle Drums for the Blood Mage to boost the overall damage of Yumiko's entire army. Siege Engine down to 85 hit points, down to 72. Is going to get a Staff of Sanctuary. No, not going to see another friendly face in time. The Dark Ranger was trying to finish off some of these Acolytes instead. And, well, Acolyte after Acolyte is going to end up falling. There goes one. And now the Dark Ranger, what is he going to try and do? He's going to try and, yes, charm another Gargoyle. Gargoyle now, retreating back here. We could perhaps see another Staff of Sanctuary. There's a sleep onto the Blood Mage. There's a Staff of Sanctuary there. And the unit's still just wandering around again. Siege Engines could have gotten a volley on top of all of those Gargoyles once more. Infernal gonna get taken down here after its time life comes to an end. However, that is gonna allow the Dreadlord to summon down another Infernal if necessary. Dark Ranger, Staff of Sanctuary saving once more, but the Dark Ranger now could be in trouble. Needs to find a way to back away. As we see a Frost Nova, perhaps another sleep right there. And now perhaps going to try and use a Scroll of Town Portal to head back out. All right, Dark Ranger sits at level 6. Siphon mana into that Goblin Alchemist. Both sides need to heal up a little bit more, perhaps before they re-engage again. Main base of Sheik, pretty sparse in terms of buildings. Meanwhile, Yumiko has a lot of units back at home ready to roll out and get into some action. Some Dark Rituals perhaps? Yeah, Dark Ritual by the Lich in order to maintain proper mana on that Lich, perhaps being able to machine gun out a lot of Frost Novas. Mass mechanical units in the Siege Engines and Flying Machines as they're going to make their way back over again. Staff of Sanctuary, Siphon Life, level 6, level 4, level 3, going up against a level 7, level 5, Healing Wave, trying to keep the units alive, and that is going to stay alive a little while longer. There's the Staff of Sanctuary again. More damage still being added as the Blood Mage, suffering quite a bit of damage, has to be careful. Blood Mage down to 22 hit points, knocked down again. So another hero loss by Yumiko, but Yumiko doesn't seem to really care. He has a large army ready to take down crypt after crypt after crypt. Buildings are being lost. A flying machine able to bombard an Acolyte who's trying to haunt a gold mine off to the north. And Yumiko just wants to make sure that he doesn't let up on the pressure. Dark Ranger, well, there goes a Frost Nova down there. Perhaps, gonna try and charm something new as the Siege Engine's getting stunned down by the Infernal again. Another Gargoyle charm here. 0-0 upgrades going up against 2-2. Carry on Swarm ripping through Siege Engines. Gonna get shot down here again as we see a Staff of Teleportation Dark Ranger showing up to the party, trying to finish things off. All right. Couple of Nerubian towers are pretty much all that are left here. Yeah, and they are falling rather fast. More of these siege engines just constantly getting destroyed. Death Coil for a save once more as the Goblin Alchemist decides, you know what, let me back away. Death Knight does get to level 6. We're going to see another siege engine taken down. Level 8, level 6, level 5. Death Coil, Frost Nova, Carrion Swarm. A nasty 1-2-3 combination as the main gold mine that is mining right now only has about 5.5 minutes of mining left. Siege engines, 1, 2, 3, all varying, well, geared up, ready to go with plenty of hit points. Meanwhile, Goblin Shredder Knight. The Knight's pretty much saying, you know what, if you want to go after my Knight and allow me to get into position with the rest of my units, I can gladly do that. Goblin, well, excuse me, the Infernal with that Cloak of Flames effect, dealing damage towards all of these peasants who just try and stand next to him. That is just going to be more and more damage over time. 63 supply compared to 29. Sheik up against the ropes here. Has had the hero level throughout much of this game, but it hasn't been translating into win overall on the battlefield, as Sheik only has a handful of buildings left. $63 over 82 supply. Siege engines rolling. Acolytes just chilling. Nothing really to do. As the Dreadlord goes after the siege engine again. All right, Death Knight, Lich. Well, heading off to the side here and finally clearing out a green creep camp after all this time. We're looking at more damage to be had. And, well, that's just going to be simply too many engines, too many buildings here, as they're going to be able to mow down all of these, well, structures. These cars just going to roll out, cause pressure, take down buildings, and get the win here. Yumiko would have been able to easily destroy all of the remaining buildings, even with the undead heroes nearby to try and offer protection. And that will end up being the game. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Hope you guys enjoyed it.